MeTV 24 Meridian proudly presents your favorite way to start the day. Welcome to Mornings with Scotty Ray and Candace.
And good morning from Scotty Ray and Candace. She is back off of her mini vacation.
It was a field trip.
Same thing.
Yeah.
What'd you see?
It was nice, I'm going to tell you. We went to Landrum's down in Laurel. It's a little homestead and village thing that this family built to show their grandchildren how things were back a long time ago. You know, how, businesses used to be set up and schoolhouses and, they just...
Right.
And just to... show them how things used to be.
But a pretty neat thing, huh?
But yeah, but it's grown through the years, and people take field trips there all the time.
Did you come back with a T-shirt or anything? Where are the souvenirs?
Well, we did. I didn't buy anything, but they had a neat gift shop. I mean, anything you could imagine. You could have gotten Christmas presents or anything, but it was fun. We went to downtown Laurel after that, and went in the little shops and the show that's on HGTV, the Hometown Show.
That's the name of it.
Yeah, we got to go in there, and they were actually filming an episode.
Really?
When we were, we got to watch it through the window. They were filming some of the episode where he's in his shop and he's cutting wood and stuff. It was really neat. So, a good day.
Did you take any pictures?
I did. I got some good pictures.
All right, well, share those and we'll get those up because there's a lot of people go, well, I've heard of that, but I don't know what it looks like. So
yeah, they own, it's a business. It's like a little general store. And then they also own another place. It's called the Laurel Mercantile Store.
Buy you a few supplies type thing.
All kind of neat stuff. I mean, just T-shirts, candles, anything you can think of. But
we'll check it out.
It's a neat town. Really.
Coming up, we've got a special guest. Chief Deputy Ward Calhoun is joining us this morning, and it will be a hoot. We're going to talk with him about what goes on in the community, what goes on behind the scenes. And truly, there's so much that deputies face each day that the general public has no idea about.
Yeah.
And, we want to talk to him and get a better understanding of what, as your deputy and you close that door, what's going to happen for the next 8, 10, 12 hours that you're on a shift.
Yeah.
Could be longer sometimes.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a lot more than we could imagine. So.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. I want to do a big thank you. I was walking down the street, and you know how somebody tells you something 10 years ago, and then they make good on it 10 years later?
Oh, yeah.
I was actually going to a meeting that Ward was going to be at, and Jack White yells at me across the street from, what's the big building down there? The Max.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, hey, come here. And he bought me this cowboy hat I've got on. And he promised me a hat like 10 years ago. I'm going to get you a new hat. And he got me one yesterday. So I want to say a big thank you to Jack White and the Sicanachi Review for getting me a new cowboy hat.
Well, that was very nice.
Mighty kind, mighty kind. Yesterday afternoon, I'm going to ask Ward about this. I kept getting a lot of texts yesterday afternoon about a wreck that happened in front of Trucker Supply. And you were telling me, Ward, you come up on that.
Yeah, I was on the way home, actually. It was about 5:30, 5:25, and came up on a crash there. Of course, there's been a lot of construction.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks have fussed about that. I'm willing to be patient because new pavement is nice.
Oh, it is.
So I thought it was just part of the construction. They've been working on, they've gotten the lanes all done, but they've been working on all of the exits, the driveways and that kind of thing. And actually there'd been a crash where a vehicle, according to witnesses, had pulled out and it struck a vehicle in its side. And that vehicle was actually in the center turn lane when I arrived, and several other people, of course, had gotten out, and the other vehicle had left the scene. So it was quite a mess out there yesterday afternoon.
Sort of a hit and run. They'd done it and then probably decided, I don't have insurance and I better run.
Exactly.
And I guess, is that one of the biggest motives, are they criminals that do that?
It's a mixture, but typically it's people who, they know either they've got outstanding warrants, don't have a driver's license, don't have insurance. Their vehicle will continue to go, and so they'll just leave.
What a bad thing.
I guess it's just this time of year, too. There's so much traffic, people out Christmas shopping and everything. We saw an accident last night, too, like in front of Marvin's.
Ooh.
Everybody after dark. And so I guess everybody was okay. I'm not sure, but had a lot of traffic backed up.
And Ward, you probably know a lot about this. I wanted to bring this up because this happened not far from where our studios are back in 2018. She was a beautiful young lady that was murdered in our community here by her husband. And yesterday, as we pulled this up, let me hit a button and get back over here where everybody else can see this. This gentleman finally went to trial and was found guilty and will receive life in prison. It won't be any more Taco Tuesdays for him. But this went on, what, for 2 years before he went to trial?
It's almost 3. Our criminal justice system has been, it is slow by design, but it has been getting increasingly slower. And COVID certainly did not help that.
Because he was out, wasn't he?
Well, he was on bond. He had a bond of $100,000, I believe, and he was out on bond. And that frustrated a lot of citizens. I had a lot of people fussing about that. And, many people don't understand our system of government and by our state constitution and the federal constitution. You have a right to bail. Now, there are some exceptions to that,
right?
But there are very few. And a judge, in our case, in our system, our justice court judges, they're the ones, there's 4 different judges, and they have to set what is called a reasonable bond. And that is pretty much left up to them to make decisions about what that is. There are no hard and fast rules about what a bond has to be. So a judge makes that decision. We don't in law enforcement. And then if that person can make that bond, whether they put it up in cash or they use a bail bondsman, or if they've never been convicted of a felony, there's something called a 10% bond where they can put 10% of the money down. It's cash, and it's held by the court until a disposition on their case. But we all of us as citizens, have that right to have a bond. And in this case, he had a bond, made the bond, and had been out.
I think a lot of people don't quite understand all that because, if you don't read the law and know all that, and they think, well, the sheriff's department doesn't let that man out again. Right. I think that's how they look at it. But y'all have nothing to do with that.
We don't. I mean, the judges set the bonds. The sheriff, a lot of times people look at it as they see the cars on the road. They see the news about the things that deputies may be doing. But actually, a sheriff's largest responsibility and the largest part of our budget is the detention facility. A sheriff is charged with the custody of that individual when they're taken into custody. He is ultimately responsible for their care, custody, and control 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until there's a disposition on that case or the reason that they're being held. And that's a huge responsibility.
Now, the Meridian Police Department, the new place I have not gone into. I've just seen it from the outside. But there's not a lot of jail cells inside there. They're mostly transferred to y'all's facility afterwards, aren't they?
Correct. Well, by state statute, a city can have their own city jail if they choose to, or they can contract and have those services provided. And in the past, the city's contracted with us. Currently today, they house their inmates in Kemper County. They have a contract with them. So it's they choose not to have a jail.
Gotcha.
We joke sometimes because the jail, while it is the biggest responsibility, that means it's also the biggest headache.
Oh, I can only imagine. And, of course, y'all serve 3 meals a day, I'm sure there.
Exactly. It's a city inside of a city.
Do you ever see this? And this is just from the hip. Me and you hadn't talked about this. This just crossed through my mind. Because criminals, especially after they go to the big house, as it said, Parchment, a place like that, there's so much crime within prisons. And if you are not a well-trained criminal when you go, someone there teaches you. And, of course, there's always, you see in the movies where the inmate is beat up by the 5 people hiding in the bushes or behind a wall. Do you ever see it to where each inmate will have a camera attached to them to where they go to where this will be put back to a command center to where they can watch everything that's happening in a prison as we watch technology move forward?
Cameras are a large part of our operation today. I think the next progressive step within our setting will be body cameras on correctional staff so that as they interact with inmates.
Right.
Because, you would think that most of our lawsuits would be because of, use of force, a deputy of forcefully arresting someone. For every lawsuit we've ever had out on the streets, there are 30 in the jail.
See, I didn't know that.
It's we spend a great deal of time and energy, and I'm proud to say we've never lost a lawsuit. There have been lawsuits that have been settled, that is a function of economy, not a function of right or wrong.
Yeah, it's cheaper to do it this way.
Exactly. Because the county, of course, has insurance. But we are able to do that because we have really great personnel who do a excellent job of documenting everything that goes on within that facility. And I can't tell you the number of times we've had a mama, a girlfriend call, and their precious darling angel has been mistreated. They've been telling them on the telephone about how we've locked them in a cell and hadn't fed them for 7 days, etc. It's so nice to be able to document those things are not true.
And say, this is what happened.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask this, because you always see this on the movies also. But I remember reading not long ago, and this is not at your jail, I think this was at the Kemper County Jail, to where people were trying to sneak, is it contraband is the word for it, into the jail, and they got caught.
Oh, yeah.
Or
Well,
even cell phones and stuff.
Yeah,
People try to sneak.
we've had employees we've charged. We've had visitors. We had a case, a year and a half ago, or maybe two. I think it'd be 2 in January. No, it would be a year ago in January, where we had some individuals who actually very smart. They cut the lock on our gate around our facility, replaced it with a lock that was the same style.
You're kidding.
No, we did not catch on to this for about a day and a half. Because we do perimeter checks, but that's done every hour or so. And when you look at a lock, you go by, it's the same lock. You just don't, because it's not a gate that we open all the time.
Yeah,
we check those a little more frequently now. But they'd put their own lock in there, had gone inside the fence, and not really a fence, a brick wall, and had using some tools, had chipped a hole through a window, and were putting contraband through. Food, tobacco, drugs, and one of our correctional officers, we're constantly doing monitoring, of course, what's going on inside pods. And I think it started on Saturday night, and I think it was Sunday evening. One of the correctional officers said something's going on in here. And so they decided to do what's commonly referred to as a shakedown. Go in, search everywhere, and they found food items that weren't on commissary that shouldn't have been there. So, and also found the window that had been broken out.
So what is and I asked this, and I'm sure you're wondering this too, Ken. Everybody probably is. What is the number one thing that is snuck into a jail cell? Is snuck in the word to use, or is there a proper word for that?
Tobacco and drugs. What typically you see. In this case, it was food items as well. And so, once we detected that, figured out what they had done, we were able to utilize technology, camera systems to figure out what car was stopping outside, and that, utilizing some additional technology that we have access to, we were able to develop a suspect within a very short period of time, and ended up charging 2 males and a female with doing that. So
wow,
it's not often you have somebody trying to break into a jail, but in this case they were.
Not a real smart thing to do.
It's not the first time we've had that happen again. Most contraband though is brought in by staff. That is where we typically find we spent a great deal of time in the beginning of someone's career explaining that inmates are there 24 hours a day, have nothing else to do other than most of them are very good con artists. They learn to manipulate people, and they want to be your buddy, want to be your friend. They will do small things to gain confidence and trust, and then they will ask for something that's in that little gray area, something small maybe.
Yeah.
But then once you do that, and then it's something else, and before long they have a hook into you. And sometimes it's about money. They will have family members offer to meet them outside or meet them. We live in a community where people know each other.
Yes, we do.
So a lot of times correctional staff live in areas they know people. They know some of these people that are in there. And so they will have people approach them on the outside about, hey, I need you to take something to my brother or to my girlfriend or whatever it is. And it doesn't take but one time to get you in trouble. And once they kind of do that, then they begin to leverage that on them. Hey, you've already done this. You wouldn't want me to tell them. You said, you need to do it again. Bring this to me one more time.
And it snowballs.
It does. Unfortunately, it's frustrating when you have people that you're trusting to do something, not do it. And but look, vast majority of our correctional officers are good people who work hard.
Right.
They don't like it any more than anybody else does. And many times, if they have a whiff of what's going on, they think something's going on. That's where we find out. We'll get our jail administrator, who's been there a long time, does a super job. She'll have somebody text her or come by the office and say, "I think something's going on," and that's generally where we start looking. And if we catch someone, we charge them if we can. Sometimes it's a function of not catching them, but fixing it so they're not there very long.
Yeah, I can see that.
If you can't, prove something in a court of law, then they may not get charged. But we attempt to do that when we can.
More coming up with Ward. Y'all don't go anywhere. This is an interesting conversation. We're going to learn more about what's happening right now. Let's head on down where the doors are wide open this morning by the railroad tracks. And that'll be the Lauderdale County Farm Supply. Exit 151, where Christmas is all in there. And you've only got 1 week to go get you a tree or a ribbon.
Yeah. Some people are last minute putting up their decorations.
I know.
And if you're one of those people, you can find anything you need just about at the Lauderdale County Farms.
And, if you go there and you can't decide what you want, get a gift certificate. They make plenty of these there, whether it's in the shop or if you need over in the jean shop, whatever it is, a deer feeder, they got all that for you. From jeans, and if you need a great pair of overalls, probably, I don't know why more people don't wear them. I'm going to be honest with you. The older you get, the more you appreciate more pockets in life.
Yeah.
And Carhartt and things like that, they've got it. Hats, well, they've got that, including those work boots. You need a good pair of boots, got them as well. Take care of you there. Getting your deer hooked on the cocaine, well, they got that for them too. See them along with if you need a blind that you can move around, these are handy and light, and you can be in and out of the woods in no time flat with that. And of course, cameras and a whole lot more, including scales as you get down to the corn. They've got that for you. Also, if you need anything for your horse and cattle, got that as well. From ammo to your pets and scopes and guns, it's all at the Lauderdale County Farm Supply. Exit 151, see them all today.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, you know who to call. Call me. Remember, one call, that's all.
And welcome back with Scotty Ray and Candace on this Friday morning. Our special guest, Chief Deputy Ward Calhoun. And we keep getting all these reports over here. I don't know if he's seen this, but somebody having a birthday.
Yeah, tomorrow, right?
It's happening.
Yeah.
Y'all got a big birthday cake celebration going on? What you doing?
We are going out of town tomorrow. My wife and I and 2 of our 3 children going over to Montgomery to the Alabama Shakespeare Festival. They have stage plays over there and the Christmas Carol tomorrow afternoon. So they're taking me over there to go see that.
Now, I've always heard it's impolite to go to Montgomery, not go visit Hank. So if you got an extra minute, swing by and say hello to Hank.
We have gone by there. We in the past.
I have never been. That is one of my destinations that I want to do. I'd like to see that. Now, another thing that happened yesterday afternoon, and I report things that happen in our community so people are aware of what's going on around them. This was 3:20 right before school got out, and I contacted Meridian High School to be absolutely sure that I had my facts straight before I talked about this morning. But the school did go on lockdown for a few minutes yesterday afternoon. We pulled this up. Gunshots were reported, and a home got shot, and actually it was an apartment complex. A white car pulled up in front of a home and basically emptied a clip, backed up, and fled. Now, to my knowledge, no one was hurt, but that doesn't change the fact that we've got people doing this in our community, and this is a common occurrence now. Does it happen in other cities? Yes, sir, it sure does. We see more of it inside the city limits than anywhere else. Thank heavens no one was hurt on this. At no time were anybody at the schools in danger, but schools still have to take that precaution to do this. And Ward, you know more about this than we do. You deal with it on a daily basis. What does someone do in these types of situations when they hear gunfire starting?
Yeah, being a good witness in any situation that you're not involved in is great for law enforcement, being able to provide information. So, anybody that I tell everybody today's got a camera. If they can safely video or take pictures of a suspect vehicle or anything like that and provide that to law enforcement, that certainly helps. Of course, these kind of things, when they happen, people, by the time somebody dials 911, dispatch gets information, puts that out, you could have a lag time of up to a minute or greater. Think about how far a person can drive in a minute. And then, time you add all these layers of repeating dispatch to patrol to wherever they are trying to get there, many times suspect can be gone for minutes. And so having accurate vehicle information or suspect description, if a person's not in a vehicle, is critical in helping law enforcement to apprehend individuals that are doing these kinds of crimes.
Now, and you bring that up, and let me ask this. Say that you see something. What on a car should you quickly look for? I know the tag, but what are other things on a car that if you were going to call dispatch and say, I just saw this, what do you look for?
Yeah, color. Getting the color right to begin with. You can talk to a couple different victims who saw the same thing, and you will sometimes get, it was a dark colored car. No, it was a white colored car. I mean, it's amazing. You just sitting there going, you're both seeing the same thing. And one of the things you learn pretty quickly in law enforcement is eyewitness testimony is not always very accurate. It depends really on how traumatized somebody is and the perspective they're seeing it based upon where they are in relation to what occurred. So you have to that's why I say a camera, video is better if the person can do that. Certainly working on getting the color down. Was it a car or a truck? And then if there's anything that distinguishes it or makes it look very different than maybe another white truck. For example, it's got a whip antenna on it.
Yeah.
Or it had a decal on the back that was orange on the back glass. Had a bumper sticker. Anything that would set it apart maybe from other vehicles, make it more specific, that's helpful. Direction of travel, just knowing which way a vehicle went. Many times people call and that's the question gets asked from dispatch, and the answer is I don't know where it went. I don't know where it went. Well, which way did it go? I'm not sure. And you're sitting there thinking, you just saw it. How could you not? But
right.
But people's when many people aren't used to something shocking like that happen to them. And so they really do kind of have a little lapse there. They're not sure what happened. They know what happened. They saw it. They were scared. But it takes them a couple seconds, sometimes a few minutes to kind of process through that and think about where, okay, well, that truck, okay, it did go toward town. Well, that's the kind of information that's helpful.
Same thing that, like, say Candace is walking down the street with a pound cake and somebody comes up and takes her pound cake. What does she need to look at on a person? What
Candace is going after.
I think Candace is going to fight him. There's going to be a messed up pound cake.
She's going to run after him and get my pound cake back.
She might use that pound cake to pound on them. I don't know.
There you go.
I've never had one for a pound cake.
Goodness.
She could use that for a weapon. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah, I might.
The one thing a person can't change very easily is their face. And being able to look at someone's face and noticing anything's distinguishing, a tattoo, a particular mark, whether they have a beard or a mustache. The face is not something you can easily change. We see this quite often in armed robberies where a bad guy had on a black hoodie. Well, later on, 30 seconds later, you're out looking and you find a black hoodie, over here behind a bush. Well, that's because bad guy's already taken a black hoodie off. He's wearing a white T-shirt now. They plan and they think they will layer clothing. Not only one layer, I've seen it where they've done 2 layers. So we got black, white, and then a red T-shirt. And by the time they're 3 blocks away, the white T-shirts come off and the red shirt's on because they know people focus on those kinds of things. But looking at someone's face, type of shoes they have, that sounds crazy. I know this sounds crazy, but bad guys tend to wear the same pair of shoes all the time.
Right. I'd never thought about that.
We're appreciative of that fact.
Yeah.
But overall, looking at a person's clothing, getting a good look at their face and a direction of travel is helpful to law enforcement to be able to try to come up with a suspect. Every second that goes by after a crime occurs it makes it more difficult. It's like TV show 48 Hours. Same is true in terms of every crime. The more time that goes by, the more difficult it is to apprehend someone, especially right after it occurred. These kinds of crimes inside the city, every second counts, and every piece of information helps to, paint that picture, to solve that puzzle for law enforcement. And that's why we've got to have we have to have the citizens helping us. This is not something that sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
It's not something that we get to, can do on our own. We have to have the eyes and ears of the community. And throughout my career, I've experienced that, seen that, and it's not a win for us when the bad guy gets caught. It's a community celebration, and there's nothing. I've been involved in some incidents out in the community where I have actually seen neighbors high-fiving out in the side yard after they've helped us by providing information.
Right.
And it's kind of fun. It's kind of like, making a touchdown.
Yeah.
Kind of the same kind of feeling. And I'm glad the community gets to participate in that.
Let me ask a couple of questions, but I work in the public every day, and I hear people talking about their feelings about the crime in the city and in the county too, and just different things. And I've heard a lot of people ask, or they feel discouraged, I guess, in a lot of ways because it's so rampant right now. And I don't think that it's the fault of any law enforcement or anything like that. I think it's just so rampant. It's people just don't care anymore. It's just a lot of bad things going on. But I've heard a lot of people ask about, do the city, the police department, and the sheriff's department, do they work together? And I've had people ask, and I don't know the answer, how much y'all work together, or I've even had people say, why don't they just form one force, or why don't they just try, would that get things under control better? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, because we all know that these people that have these guns that are criminals, they're not going to the pawn shops and getting background checks. They're not doing all that. They're not getting their guns the right way. We know that. So I don't know what the answer is, how you get that under control.
We didn't get here overnight.
Right.
We won't get it solved overnight. Crime has been a problem since Cain killed Abel. It is, it's not going away anywhere. What we have to do is a multi-pronged approach and hit this problem from multiple angles. I could sit here and I could get on my soapbox, but I won't, because we don't have enough time, about how we've gotten here. The question is, how do we get away from here?
Right.
And it is going to take all of us to do it. It is going to take families. It is going to take religious institutions stepping back into the picture and taking back their place in our community. It is going to take people in government willing to face the fact that we have these kind of problems and look for good solutions that make evidence-based solutions that make sense. We have to fund the parts of law enforcement that need it. We were at this meeting Scotty Ray you talked about yesterday. One of the most frustrating things, we charged a man with a murder here in Lauderdale County not long ago. That the time between the crime and the time that we were able to have enough probable cause to sign an affidavit to get an arrest warrant was a little over 3 weeks. We had the evidence, we believed, in our hands. Literally within a day. But having that evidence to have to go to the crime lab and rely on others in order to get this evidence from this electronic device, it took a while. And it is frustrating to know that we have it, but we can't literally put our fingers on it because we're having to rely on in this case, a state crime lab. And look, it's not those folks' fault. They got great people over there. It's the system's fault, not funding enough so that law enforcement can get the tools they need to do the job the community wants us to do in a timely fashion. We have a trial coming up in end of January, I believe it is, where a gentleman has been charged with murdering 4 people. That occurred in February of 2017.
Yes, it's just entirely too long.
5 years. That is uncalled for.
Has he been in jail that whole time?
He has been in this particular case. He's not able to make bond, but had he been able to make bond, he would have been out these 5 years. And we waited. It was at least a year and a half, almost 2 years, getting autopsy results back. People say, "Well, they're dead. You know that." In the eyes of the law, you've got to be able to explain about why they're dead, how they died, and that requires an autopsy report. And that requires a person properly trained to do that. And in the state of Mississippi, we seem to have a problem funding enough to have a person or persons to do that at the state crime lab. That has been a repeated problem through the years over there. And it is very frustrating in law enforcement to be hampered because of the things really that are beyond your control. Watched a video just yesterday focus on your area of control, the things that you can do something about. And I understood what they were saying. I get it, and I do try to live my life that way, but I'm going to be honest with you, in law enforcement, when you have to rely on other organizations and agencies at the state level, it's hard. So that was why yesterday, Scotty Ray, I was jumping on folks about talk to your legislature.
Yeah, I get that.
That's what I was just fixing to say. What can be done?
And look, they got a hard job too. There's only so many dollars. I get it, But many times, and look, I've taken some heat in the community in years past. I was at a community club one time. They got really mad, and I said, stop. I said, y'all the same folks that yell, I don't want my taxes to go up, but over here you want, but on the other hand, you want to lock them all up. Well, you can't do both.
That's right.
It requires money to do these things. Now, should a discussion be had about what priorities we have in our communities? Certainly, because there are just X amount of dollars. Everybody in those types of offices, whether we're talking about a board of supervisors or a legislature, they have to set priorities. That's what it gets down to, because there's only so many dollars, and figure out what the priority is going to be. Obviously, from where I sit, I believe that if you don't have a community that's safe, many of those other things don't matter.
Right. That's point. Exactly right. That's the way I feel about it.
You've got to fund the areas that need to be funded, and you have to be smart about it. One of the things that I've been doing this for a while now, and one of the things that I know is our future is technology.
It is.
We have got to look for ways to leverage technology to help us not only in solving crimes, but in preventing crimes or detecting crimes. And we are woefully behind in many of those areas. Now, we're making some great strides. We now have computers in our cars. Just yesterday, we got a new app that we're test driving. It started yesterday. Several of us at the office and our deputies will have that. It's akin to what is in the patrol cars in order to keep up and to access technology. I started back in the day when we hand wrote reports, we typed reports. I remember in 1996, the only computer, and you think, well, that was a long time ago. It really wasn't that long ago. There were a lot of computers around in 1996, but there weren't at the Lauderdale County Sheriff's Department, and the one that was there was used to do payroll on the county system. Everything was hand done or by a typewriter. So when you developed a suspect on a burglary, I literally remember investigators going to the filing cabinets and pulling out files, and they'd lay them on the floor and try to put the puzzle together.
Yeah.
Just crazy. Even back then, we were doing things like that.
So technology is the way of the future.
No doubt. And so we're making some good strides across the spectrum in law enforcement. I think we're better at catching bad guys today than we used to be because of technology.
Mm-hmm.
But coming up, I want to ask, and get this in the back of your head, I want to ask some do's and don'ts with the cops. We're going to discuss that in just a moment. So y'all stay close, don't go anywhere. More coming up with Ward Calhoun this morning as we travel along on this Friday. Boys, 1 week away from Christmas. Rock House Gun and Pawn is open Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. Lots of different calibers and brands to choose from when it comes to hunting rifles. Whether you're looking for a new pump shotgun or an AR, the Rock House will have the gun that you need, with a huge selection of ammunition for just about any caliber that you may be looking for. Pistols, scopes, and a whole lot more. Plus a private lobby for your confidentiality when it comes to your pawns. Rock House Gun and Pawn, located at 5430 Highway 19 North Meridian. The Piggly Wiggly of Collinsville are passing along these great specials. Idaho potatoes, 8-pound bag, $3.99. Mississippi sweet potatoes, 49 cents a pound. Cuties or Halos, a 3-pound bag, only $7.99. Piggly Wiggly cranberry sauce, 14-ounce can, 99 cents. Cairo syrup, 16-ounce, 2 for $5. And select T-bone steak family pack, $6.99 a pound.
And we're down.
And welcome back with Scotty Ray and Candace on this Friday morning as I tease Christmas.
I know.
We're
And
a week away.
I feel like, I've got so many things going on. I'm doing so many different things I feel like trying to do. I'm not doing anything well right now. So I feel like I'm kind of in chaos.
Are you done with your shopping yet, Ward?
Please don't ask that question.
Okay, I won't back away from that. Let me
Don't ask any man that question.
That's
okay?
right.
I was in, let me think this, and I had an ex-Meridian police officer with me. And I can't remember the name of the little town in Texas, but it was where Don Williams was from. We had just, it was 5 a.m, and me and him were headed to a meeting. And we went through this itty-bitty town that had one stop sign. And I guess my truck got up to 31. I get pulled over, and he goes, it was dark. He goes, roll down every window in the truck. And he said, he's coming up, roll them down, put your hands on the steering wheel so he can see what's going on. If you get pulled over, what do you need to do? It kind of explains where cops won't get excited.
Yeah, sure. And there are basic things that all officers are taught. One of the things you figure out is that every officer does it a little bit different, which is actually a good thing because we shouldn't do it all exactly the same way. And what I mean by that is I encourage people, when you get pulled over, first of all, it's okay to get to a good spot. I mean, if you're driving down the road and there's this bad ditch to your right, but right up, a couple 100 yards up the road, you see a good spot to get over, it's okay to slow down and get to that spot and pull over. That officer wants you to do that. Now, what it isn't okay to do is say, well, I'm only 5 miles from the house. I just go to my driveway because it'll be a good safe spot there. That's not going to work. Okay?
Right.
But pulling over safely, and then once you do that, roll your window down and keeping your hands on your steering wheel is a great thing because that's what officers are looking for. The things that hurt officers are hands. That's what we're concerned about. And so putting your hands on your steering wheel or if a passenger, having their hands just out in front of them is certainly the best way to do that. I have a lot of people say, well, I have a gun. Should I tell them I have a gun or not? You don't have to. There's no requirement. You're not legally. You can
Good
have
question.
a firearm inside your vehicle. Now, what you don't want to do is when he walks up and say, hey, I got this gun, and wave it out the window. That's not going to go well. So, but just leave the gun wherever it's at. If you choose to tell them, so be it. Many of them will be appreciative. I personally, I don't care. I make the assumption everybody's got a gun, so for me, it's not that big a deal. If for some reason you end up in a situation where an officer gets you out of the vehicle, there's something else going on there, then telling them there's a firearm in the vehicle before you exit the vehicle is helpful, and they're going to be appreciative of that. Now, how could that happen? Here's a prime example. You're driving, you pull out of a subdivision, and you're driving down the road, and a deputy police officer comes up, and you get stopped. Well, it may be that somebody in the neighborhood has called in to 911 and said, hey, there's this white pickup truck. I think they just burglarized my neighbor's house. Well, you're just leaving a friend's house. You haven't burglarized anything. And they stop you. They're going to be treating you a little differently than they would on a traffic stop. Maybe your tag's expired or you didn't stop at the stop sign. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a little bit of difference there. And people need to allow officers a little bit of leeway there until they figure out what's going on. When they approach you and they talk with you and they find out, okay, we have this call, there's been a burglary or an alleged burglary in this case, and they're going to ID you and, asking you to step out of the vehicle. They're looking at their stolen items, perhaps they are things that could be stolen inside the vehicle that they see. These are all the kind of things they're looking for. Once they figure out, hey, you were just at somebody's house, no big deal, going to move on from there. But
let me ask
they
this.
got to figure that out first.
Mm-hmm. Because we see this a lot. Not long ago, we all know that a child was lost in the area. Of folks that, and it's kind of like deer hunting. Know what's in front of you before you squeeze a trigger. Of somebody that hears the bushes rattle in their house and they open up the back door and they just take the pistol out and fire 12 rounds out in the backyard. Tell everybody why that is just not a good choice to make.
The basic safety firearm safety rules apply, and people need to think about this. I am all about the Second Amendment. I think I'm good with everybody that's legally able to have a gun having a gun. People talk about the Wild West. I don't think that happens. Everybody in Mississippi we know just about got a gun anyway.
Yeah.
But with the right of having that firearm comes the other side of that coin, which is the responsibility to have that firearm. And you have to be a responsible gun owner. And the way to do that is the thing like you just said, opening the back door, shooting out. That is not responsible.
Because it could be somebody that's lost,
Could be your neighbor,
disoriented.
right? Could be a family member. Those kind of things have happened before. You want to identify your target. And in Mississippi, you have a right to have that firearm. You have a right to defend yourself. But there's it is more narrowly defined than just that broad statement. If someone is walking away from you, they're not a danger to you. Now, if they're walking backwards, pointing a gun, okay, I get that example. But you know what I mean. They're not. They're fleeing from you. It's not okay just to shoot them. You can end up in a bad spot, not only from a criminal standpoint of perhaps being charged, but what you've got to remember is there's two sets of laws. We have civil laws as well, where people can sue you. And you need to think about those things and have proper training and know what you're doing and why you're doing it, as opposed to, I just shot him because I was scared. Mm-hmm. That's not going to work when they're 30 yards down the road. And we have these kind of things happen, and they've happened in our community. Encourage people to get training. If a firearm is not something that they've really used to, they should get some proper training. Yeah. Be a responsible gun owner. Because then they can be an asset to themselves, their family, and the community if they're properly trained and know what they're doing and why they're doing it. I worry about that. Earlier you mentioned about bad guys not, purchasing their guns at a gun store. Most of our bad guys are getting their guns from citizens who are leaving their firearms in a vehicle overnight, and their car's burglarized, and now we've got a gun out on the street. Part of being a responsible gun owner is making sure you know where your weapons are and that they are properly secured if they're not on your person, that you have taken care of making sure it's not easily accessible to someone who shouldn't have it. That is a part of being a responsible gun owner. And I can't tell you the number of times we've had people call or come to the office to report a stolen firearm. And the question is, okay, when was the last time you had the firearm? And I've had them look me dead in the eye and go, yeah, I shot it at my cousin's house. I think it was year before last, and then I put it underneath my front seat. Yeah. And they have no idea. That gun could have been gone for a year. They have no idea. They don't have the serial number. I will get on a soapbox here real quick, guys. Life is not as complicated as it has to be for most of us. Today's world, we talked about technology earlier. One of the biggest things you can do for yourself and for law enforcement is to document your property. I'm talking about at your house, your
pictures.
Today, all you've got to do is use your phone, take pictures of everything. Take pictures of for example, a firearm. Take a picture of it, a big picture, something that includes the entire weapon, and then get the serial number. And then all you do is email those pictures to yourself. And in the byline, you can put, property or firearms, or you could categorize them, however you want to do it. That way, if you ever have a loss, it might not be a theft. You could have a tornado. You could have a fire. Mm-hmm. Guess what the insurance company is going to have you do? You're going to have to document all of those items. What better way than to have a picture and a serial number, especially if it's a stolen item? Because what happens is many times we catch bad guys. We know this property is not theirs. They have stolen it somewhere. But when we run the serial numbers, it comes back not filed. It's not in the system. We really need people to help us with that by having their serial numbers, especially on firearms, televisions, computers, those kind of things. We did a search warrant last week. We were in a house, had stolen, no doubt in our mind, these are stolen items, but we have no idea who the victim is because when you run those serial numbers, they don't come back in our system. Nobody's ever reported them. And a lot of times I'll have people, in this particular case I was talking about, we found a credit card. Has a name on it. It is not the house that we're in. So that tells me that credit card's probably stolen. You ain't got to be real smart to figure that one out. We ended up contacting the person who's on the card, and their car had been burglarized, but they chose not to report it. It's frustrating. We need people to report when they have something happen. You never know what little piece of the puzzle you may provide to an overall picture to help us solve other crimes and to actually charge somebody with a crime. You may have that one piece of information that we need. But if you don't report it,
then it never
we
happened.
don't know about it.
That's right. More coming up with Ward in just a moment, so don't run off on that. As we've watched all of this the last few weeks of bad weather, be prepared for this. It's not over. We're going to have another round of this coming up in the spring. And we want you to have peace of mind at night when you go to bed, a place you could go to. And the Precast Group here in Meridian out on 145 South do just that. They get you prepared where you've got a place to go to. They'll deliver it out. If you're building a home, you can have it put on the inside. But if you've already got your house built, don't worry. It can be put outside. And it is. At the end of the day, peace of mind is what this is, a quick place that you can run to in an emergency. This is a business that had it put out behind their place for their employees in the ground. Maybe you want above or below. You can do either way. They'll do that, and you can design the inside any way that you would like. They're out there. The Precast Group is the name. They're part of our community. You can see them. They've got many things from picnic tables, cattle gaps, and, of course, these storm shelters. See them today. They'll tell you more about it. Very, very affordable. 482-0003. Talk to them, and they'll fill in all the details for you there at the Precast Group.
I spent weeks in the hospital due to a careless driver. I could no longer afford to do it alone. I knew I needed help.
I'm Mississippi Attorney Richard Schwartz. I'm proud to represent the people of the great state I call home.
I'm Michelle from Oxford, Mississippi, and it took one call, and that was all. I called my Mississippi attorney, Richard Schwartz, and he got me $287,500.
If you need me, Mississippi, remember, one call, that's all.
Sanders Gas, Sanders Air and Heat is your full-service propane supplier since 1946. We take pride in ensuring reliable, friendly service to our customers. We also provide safety tune-ups related to propane, air conditioning, and heating systems, keeping our communities efficient and safe. I'm Chuck Sanders, and yes, we're local.
Right.
And welcome back with Scotty Ray and Candace is our special guest, and we'll get a close-up on him so all his friends can see him real good. Ward, say hi.
Good morning.
We've got some folks asking questions now, and of course you can always ask a question in the comments if you're watching online as well.
Yes.
But I'll let you get into this.
Well, I had thought about this earlier too, and I'm glad somebody brought it up. What should a female that might be riding alone at night or any other time, but at night you really don't know other than lights behind you who's behind the wheel, of that car. So what should they do? Because we know that what happened years ago, there was a crime committed, and it was, somebody using a fake blue light, and it kind of scared women. I don't know, it just makes us nervous, I guess.
Sure, and I certainly understand that.
Right.
And officers know, and we talk about this, and I encourage the public, you can certainly go to, drive. If you're driving too fast, slow down. If you're driving the speed limit, continue. It's okay to put your flashers on, drive down to a safe location. Now, when I'm talking about safe, again, that might be there's a light, or you see a home, or a business, a convenience store, something like that. It's not drive 10 more miles till I get home, or I'm going to go until I get to the mall. That's not what we're talking about. At least in our area, the vehicles we have and the ones I'm aware of from the city, a lot of lights. We're not talking about a single little dash light or something like that. Our patrol cars are marked. The officers are going to be in a uniform. It's certainly okay if there is some doubt in your head and you're going, something doesn't feel right, you certainly can call 911. And that dispatcher is going to know that officer is pulling you over. Now, let me say this. You dial 911 in Lauderdale County, we have a consolidated dispatch. They're going to know a city county. But if you're being pulled over by a state trooper, that's not our dispatch. And so they wouldn't know that necessarily.
That happened in Louisiana. I don't know if you remember that. And it was a huge thing. It was a lady on a bridge, and she didn't feel safe. And it was one of those long bridges. You know how it is in Louisiana, 4 or 5 miles long. And she didn't pull over. It was about 40 miles an hour, and he did the pit maneuver on her. And whoo.
Yeah,
That's
it's
scary.
Officers have to make some judgment calls at times. I try to remind our folks as we talk about these kind of things, and trainings and just general conversation, is that for that citizen, that might be your 10th traffic stop of the night. That might be their first in their lifetime, and they don't know necessarily all the things we know, and they're unsure sometimes, especially like I said, maybe a lady by themselves. They're feeling unsafe. And it's okay to again, just as I said, pull down the road a little bit, light it air, other people, and pull over. keep your hands on the steering wheel. If you're just really unsure, you certainly could call 911. I don't need everybody in our community, every time they get pulled over by a car they can see as a patrol car,
Right.
to call 911. It's a patrol car, it's marked.
Right.
So I want people to misunderstand that. But if for some reason you have some huge doubts, then it's certainly okay to do that.
I got pulled over once, and I promise you I didn't know why. You know where E.V. Harrington's store used to be?
Yeah, on Poplar Springs.
Yeah. So there was a deputy sitting over there. And I pull up to the stop sign, and I take a right. Next thing I know, I got blue lights behind me. I thought, what in the hell have I done? So he pulls me over, and I said, why'd you pull? You didn't stop? I said, yes, sir, I did. And he goes, no, sir, you went across the line. And I didn't even know there was a line there. So thereafter, I learned that there was a line there. And they had gotten a lot of complaints in the area, everybody speeding there and not stopping. And they were just being a friendly, and I just didn't understand at that moment.
Yeah, a lot of people kind of miss that part in our statute where it says all cessation of movement must cease.
Yeah.
And so I tell people all the time, if you come to a stop sign, if it's you stop and it's 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, it's okay to move then. But this pull up, I looked both ways, and then I went through the 4-way. That's not going to work.
It's kind of like the old joke of the police officer using his nightstick on somebody who's slowing down and stopping. It's a big difference.
Yeah, which one you want me to do? Slow down or stop?
Let me ask you a question too. We were talking earlier about technology being a thing of the future that could help the law enforcement. It's here now, technology is, but you need more of it. So what exactly do the law enforcement, Meridian Police Department or Sheriff's Department, what do y'all need? Do you sit down and do you say, okay, this is the things that we need? And this is the things, like, do you list things? Do you compile a big list? Do you compile a number of how much dollars, that you would need? And what do we, as the citizens and like business owners and people who work in the community or live in the community, what can we do? What do we need to do to start trying to help make a difference?
The great question, because many times we are at fault in that we plan a budget for a year. I tell people sometimes. I remember growing up. Of course, I grew up during a time period when we did. Not only fire drills, but we did nuclear drills. I never, as a kid, I said, you look at these mushroom clouds and you think, why is getting under my desk going to make any difference? But anyway, so I grew up in a different time period than maybe a lot of younger folks today. But I do remember this about the Russians. I remember two things about them.
Tell us.
They were communists, they were evil, and they were bad, and they had a 5-year plan. We don't even do a 5-year plan like in county government, city government. Most of the time we're bad about having a 1-year plan. It's called the current budget, and it can be frustrating. So, as part of the leadership team at the Sheriff's Department, one of the things we do look for is try to get up that 50,000 foot look on the surveying what's going on around us and what's out in front of us, and try to think about those kind of things about where technology, and we've made some great strides through the years. We've got some cameras out in the county now helping us with tag, with vehicles, the computers in our cars, things we're doing with our phones. One of the things that we are working on currently, actually, we will soon be looking to hire our first criminal intelligence analyst.
Big title.
It is, and when we didn't even know what we were doing, and actually what's great about it is the acronym is CIA.
Whoa!
Didn't even catch on to that until after we wrote that out. And look, we're not doing something that others are in our nation or even in our state is doing. Biloxi has 3 officers that do this. Now, this position we're going to have is going to be a civilian position because we feel like we can better utilize a civilian than what I call a badge toter. Most badge toters are all about getting out the door and going and catch bad guys, which is what you want. But we need somebody who can be. If you've ever watched the show Criminal Minds,
yeah,
which is, I don't remember the person's name, but she's the lady who answers the phone, and they tell us everything about Scotty Ray, and in 30 seconds they tell us his favorite ice cream is, and he graduated high school with these 3 people, and one of them is your suspect. This kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that's TV. It's not real life. But utilizing technology, this person, and so I'm getting to your question, is some of the things that we want to be doing is being able to download cell phones, for example. Well, that's an expensive piece of equipment that the state has that we don't have here locally. And so we're looking at purchasing that type of equipment. Everybody today's got a cell phone, good and bad. Find a cell phone, get a cell phone. There's an incredible amount of evidence on a cell phone, too.
Oh, yeah, everything's told there, isn't it?
Exactly. And being able to get that information is one of the areas of technology that we're wanting to begin to start doing. You've got devices today in homes that most people don't think about. There was a murder solved not long ago with an Alexa device. So there are other pieces of technology, car GPS systems that are in cars. There's a lot of information that is there.
You just got to know how to get it.
You got to know how to get it. You got to be able to get it legally. That is another piece of the puzzle that you have to make sure that you do. I tell people all the time, catching bad guys would be easy if all we got to do is let old Ward and a couple other old boys go figure out. We know who do things around here.
Right.
But knowing it and being able to prove it are two different things.
Makes sense.
You can even know it and think you've proved it, but if you get that evidence in a way that's not going to be admissible in court, you have not helped yourself.
Yep.
Matter of fact, all we've done is hurt ourselves, because not too long after the charges being dismissed is when the attorneys are going to show up to sue. Typically, they're after that individual officer, but they look for those deep pockets, and those deep pockets are your pockets as a taxpayer. And so that is another angle that you have to always keep in mind as you do things. So that kind of technology are some of the things that we're already looking at and working toward. I think the biggest thing that the community can do for us is to believe in us, keep working with us, provide information when you can, encourage your elected officials to support law enforcement. Not just blindly. I never ask for that, but when we come to them when we need, and I'm gonna have to say, and it's gonna sound like I've worked with a lot of different boards of supervisors. Every 4 years we have a different board. There's always typically somebody different. This board we have right now has been more receptive and has listened and tried harder than any board in the past to help us figure out ways to fund things so that we can do a better job. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All we need is just fair. Listen to us. Let us make the argument. And then if we make a good argument and we can show where we think that's going to be helpful, then help us figure out a way to do that, to fund whatever it is. Because there's not a problem that money can't solve. And the federal government tells you that every day, right?
That's right.
Well, that's not always true. We've got to have citizens believing in us, working with us, helping us. And we may not know everything. We don't know everything. Sometimes the best ideas have come from the community. I used to have an example, and off the top of my head, I've forgotten, but it was something that after I heard it from a community member, I was like, duh, why didn't we come up with that? Sometimes when you're in the fight, you just don't see it. They saw something that we say, hey, why don't you try this?
More coming up with Ward in just a moment as we get ready to wrap up today. Godwin Cleaning Services, we want to be there for you as the holidays approach. New Year's is right around the corner, and you too can get your stuff cleaned up. Harry Mayer's done it. Look at this. It looks good. Your sidewalks and your parking area can be so dirty so quickly. They'll get all that done for you. Metal buildings, before and after. Godwin Cleaning will come out and do it. And a lot of times this won't take but a couple hours to get it done, and it's back to normal. Look at this house. Changes the whole look of it.
I know. I spoke to someone the other day that said they go above and beyond just doing pressure washing and stuff. I mean, they do a great job.
Yeah, it'll change the look of your home. Look at that. Call them today, 253-8262. Still time to get everything taken care of before the holidays. It's Godwin Cleaning Services. See them today. Give them a call again at 601-253-8262.
I'm Kim from Tupelo, Mississippi, and it took one call, and that was all. I called my Mississippi attorney, Richard Schwartz, and he got me $335,000.
If you need me, Mississippi, remember, one call, that's all.
Welcome back. And what was your answer?
My answer is, for example, one of the things that we're looking right now is a new app on phones, as well as a website where people can submit video to us. So many people have video from their business or from their home, Ring doorbells, those kind of things, having a way to give that to us. So we're looking at technology to help people to help us.
Yes.
Happy birthday to you. Hope it's a great one there.
Merry Christmas.
Thank y'all for dropping by today.
Scotty Ray's Weather is brought to you by